how he voted at the 2019 election, whether or not even he preferenced the Labor Party, had the Liberal Party, and he wouldn't answer. He said it's a private matter. Did that strike you as odd at all?
Oh, no, John is mercurial at the best of times, so it doesn't surprise me that he won't answer those sorts of questions. He likes to keep the media guessing.
It's just going to keep everyone guessing, though, isn't it, when there are reports today that he's unofficially, quietly, whatever you want to say, telling people to vote the Nationals, then Labor, then the Liberal Party to clear the way for him to get the seat maybe at the next federal election?
Yeah, listen, Tom, but I mean, this is a bit of a distraction. You've had him on this morning. He's told you that it's untrue. The article says there's no evidence to that effect. It just seems to me like sort of more smear and fear, because whoever is running on the other side of John wants to make sure that the people of Eden-Monaro are distracted from the real issues, which is what party is going to deliver better services, better infrastructure, more hope, more opportunity for the people of Eden-Monaro after the by-election. And I think that's the key question that is facing people, not a question about whether John Barilaro didn't say something that he's denied he didn't say. So, really, let's get back to the issues, I think.
All right. Well, just to clarify, he was holding a news conference, so we brought some of that to our viewers in the interest of showing people what was going on. But is John Barilaro himself still a distraction in this campaign?
I don't think he's a distraction. I think that he's a distraction for the media. He's not a distraction for the people of Eden-Monaro, and he's not a distraction for us.
Interested in your thoughts, Patrick Gorman, on some very low expectation setting from Anthony Albanese. Labor Party is the bookie's favourite. We've got 100 years of history in terms of a government not taking a seat off the opposition in a by-election, and yet he still thinks, well, remember Scott Morrison was ahead. Is he worried about losing this seat?
Well, that's a question. The result is a question for the people of Eden-Monaro to decide on Saturday evening. But this is the most extraordinary by-election that we have seen in recent history. It is in the middle of a pandemic. We have states of emergency declared across the country. People are unable to campaign in their traditional ways, and that includes the Liberal Party. And we're now seeing in the last sort of hours of this campaign it kind of going back to what it started, which is this weird John Barilaro sideshow. And the sideshow that sort of keeps on giving, where he can't even tell us who he preferenced. Look, I'll tell you that I voted for the Labor Party, and I followed the Labor Party ticket, which is the normal thing.
Were you the candidate that you voted for, Pat?
Yeah, I do live in my electorate, Jason, and I did vote for myself. And
so you voted for yourself?
Yes, I did.
Well, I'm sure Patrick Gorman would reveal what he did in a state election, though, too.
Oh, that's a good question.
It doesn't involve you.
I'm a very disciplined person. I follow the party ticket, and I'm surprised that the leader of the National Party in New South Wales won't even say whether he followed his own party's how to vote card. That is an extraordinary...
Do you follow your party's ticket, Jason Falinski?
Yes, I do. Tom, I do, yes. Sorry.
See, it's easy. Even Jason can answer that question. I mean, surely John Barilaro could have as well.
Yeah, but John's one of these guys who likes to keep the media interested, throws a bit of red meat out there. I mean, this is just all part of his,
Is this really helping?
Well-trodden media
just on the edge of a by-election? Is this what you call helping out? Is this what you call helping out the coalition? Just 48 hours from polls opening?
Well, look, I mean, it's distracted the media. The fact of the matter is that we're continuing to focus on the issues that matter to the people of Eden-Monaro in the last 24 hours. How long have we actually got now? 48 hours? Last 48 hours? And we'll just, we'll keep doing that until election day.
So
I think look, people of Eden-Monaro...
Let me just walk through this, Jason Falinski. You're saying he's distracting the media. People watch the media, they consume it for better or worse, and the media is talking about John Barilaro instead of the issues you're focusing on. So doesn't
I think
mean he's not doing the right thing by the coalition?
No, I think the media is talking about John Barilaro. I don't think that the people of Eden-Monaro are.
Only because
they're more concerned.
I mean, he didn't give an emphatic denial today about the story in terms of exactly what he's had to say.
So that's given you something more to...
He'll be voting number one, Trevor Hicks. then the coalition second. When he was asked about whether he encouraged anyone else, he said there are going to be members on the ground. They'll say and do as they please. He didn't exactly knock it on the head.
Well, look, but this is what he does. So you're still talking about John. The people of Eden-Monaro want to talk about who's going to give them better services. And I think, this is the problem with modern politics, with all due respect to everyone involved in modern politics, which is we just love talking about ourselves so much when people want us to talk about them. The electorate wants us to serve them. And I think, this morning we've spent more time on John Barilaro than on the issues that are concerning ordinary Australians and definitely the people of Eden-Monaro.
Well, I'm pleased to let our viewers know as well, he will be on our panel on election night coverage on Saturday. So if, unlike Jason Falinski, you like it when John Barilaro has a bit to say and makes the whole political scene a little bit more colourful, tune in on Saturday evening. He'll be there. Patrick Gorman, I'm not letting you escape, though, on Anthony Albanese. Surely, if amidst all the consternation around the bushfire response in this electorate and the history on Labor's side, if this seat is lost, there have to be conversations, don't there, about Labor's approach right now and whether that's getting through to voters.
I think what you just outlined is true, which is this electorate, we're not talking about the outcomes across the entire country. We're talking about the outcomes in this particular electorate, which has had drought, bushfire, now coronavirus pandemic. It is a pretty unique situation. And I think people on all sides of politics, even in sort of some of the convoluted defence of John Barilaro that Jason had in there, recognise that this is an election about the people of Eden-Monaro. And of course, we know that by-elections don't always reflect the outcome of the next general election, and that's what I'm focused on, winning the next general election. But I was on the phones for Christy McBain. I was on the phones for Christy McBain last night, talking to people in the Eden-Monaro. I walked out of doing 2 hours of phone banking feeling incredibly optimistic about Labor's chances. It is a tough election, but people have heard... So
you're a lot more confident than Anthony Albanese, it talks like?
Well, based on the calls I made last night, people recognise that she is a local who has stood up for her community time and time again. That's the sort of...
When she put their rates up by 8%. This is what we get from Labor candidates all the time.
Jason,
in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a drought, in the middle of bushfires, her contribution was to put up rates by 8%.
If you want to talk about putting up taxes, let's talk about the fact that yet again, and we've debated this on this program before, yet again the Liberal Party are looking to increase the GST to 15%. Every time there's an economic challenge in this country, the Liberal Party says, oh, well, the obvious solution is to increase the GST. And now you're looking at putting a knowledge tax on people in Eden-Monaro by putting a GST on their education. So if you want to talk about who's got a plan for higher taxes at this election, it's the New South Wales Liberal Party. And we know that where the New South Wales Liberal Party goes, the economic policies of the federal coalition follow.
I'll just get you each on this topic now that we've moved on to it so seamlessly. Jason Falinski, this idea pushed out by the New South Wales government, I should urge, but, it's one that economists like. It's a good tax that's hard to avoid, it's efficient and so on. Is there any appetite for listening to that clamour from people that say this would be a good idea for tax reform? Do you have any boldness to go up against the scare campaign that's ready and waiting there on Patrick Gorman's side?
Tom, the fact of the matter is that Australia has some long-term issues around creating economic hope and opportunity for our people. Primarily, this can be summarised in the issue of productivity. One of the biggest drivers of productivity is having an efficient and fair tax system. Australia's tax system is neither fair nor efficient. What the New South Wales government, through Dominic Perrottet, has proposed, and David Thodey has proposed, is not increasing taxes, as Patrick is putting forward. It is proposing changing our tax mix so that it is fairer and more efficient. What Kirsten McBain did in Bega was simply put up taxes with no reform attached to it, an inefficient tax to spend on more wasteful services that do no good for anyone. The difference between what Dominic Perrottet is proposing is reforming our tax system, not increasing taxes, but making them fairer and more efficient.
I know it's a big reform package. As part of that, GST, land tax, stamp duty, all these types of things to be looked at.
Yeah.
Do you back
Look, we have to get...
It doesn't seem like the federal government wants to have that conversation.
Tom, we're up for this conversation more than you would believe, because if the one thing that the pandemic has demonstrated is that we cannot afford to be second best anymore. We have the 16th most efficient.
You're up for that conversation.
This is including
people it can be done.
We should take. Yeah, sorry, Tom.
No, sorry. Yeah, I'm just meaning up for that conversation, including trying to drive a discussion around increasing the GST, of course, helping out lower income earners, but increasing the GST. You're up for that discussion?
Well, look, the Treasurer and the Prime Minister have made it clear that they are not inclined to increase the rate of the GST. That doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of scope for reform within the GST. I do, however, the two most inefficient taxes in Australia's tax mix at the moment that do more damage and more harm than any others are stamp duty, especially on land transfers, and payroll tax. Reform of those two taxes are critical and are something that the federal government, we need to pursue. And I would hope, quite frankly, in the interests of fairness, if nothing else, that that would have bipartisan support.
I'm going to jump in because we're nearly out of time, Patrick Gorman. This is you can do holistic tax reform that compensates those lower income earners, for example, on the GST, that gets rid of things or reduces payroll tax. Is Labor up for that discussion at all?
Well, the taxes that Jason just outlined are state taxes. So if Jason wants to jump into state politics with John Barilaro, then I'm sure that he'd be very welcome because he too is a very entertaining character and it seems to be the prerequisite for...
I'm not sure I'm as entertaining as John.
But on the question of the GST, I mean, what Jason just said there with some pretty very clever... John Howard would be proud of how Jason just handled that interview, which is some pretty clever
Stop
words.
With the compliments,
that is a compliment.
I know.
They might start looking at the GST on fresh food. They might start looking at the GST on education. That's what Jason just said. That is, for me, a red line.
All right.
You cannot increase the GST on essentials like education and fresh food.